Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Salvage has slipped out of Alpha 3.5, but should be seen somewhere in 2019. In the next couple of weeks, we should see an extended, expanded roadmap with some more updates to 3.6 and actually beyond that with 3.7 and probably 3.8 as well. Today, I wanted to talk about what appears to be CIGs changing priorities for this year for Star Citizen and how this may affect patches and gameplay throughout 2019. This is more of a I reckon video and musings rather than a statement of fact though. With the updates to Alpha 3.5's roadmap, we've seen a bit more about what is prioritised and what's not at the moment. It's very possible that Salvage just wasn't in an appropriate place for its first implementation and needs a bit more work. In fact, that's exactly what it is. But there's obviously some bits that have caused delays and there's been scheduling changes. It's also very possible that they're prioritising other features for the persistent universe this year and are pushing that back because they want certain features ready for prime time. Maybe they want Salvage ready for when the Vulture comes in. Star Citizen is becoming a bit more mainstream with more players and bigger content creators playing the game. On Twitch recently, I've been watching Cyanide and Quebec play together and it's been pretty cool. They seem to be really enjoying the game. Traditionally, every year in January, CIG reschedule large sections of their roadmap, and this might be one of the reasons that we haven't seen 3.7 and 3.8, because they were like, well, let's wait until the time of year where we do the rescheduling to do those parts of the roadmap. And the scheduling for this is based on various factors, what they want to get out at certain times of the year, like at CitizenCon, the 4 major PU releases that they have each year, what they believe the game currently needs as it's being run as a live environment. It's a living game now. They literally are just updating it every 3 months. Yes, it's not anywhere near finished yet, but that's how they're treating it. And this year, there's a concerted effort to get Squadron 42 Episode 1 finished now, with optimistic plans to get the game content and feature complete for the end of 2019 for release in 2020. Almost everything that is going into Squadron 42 can and will be used in the persistent universe in some way, although it does require more work to get it PU or multiplayer ready in most cases. It's logical that scheduling aspects of the game that are entirely shared by both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen will take precedent. And beyond that, Squadron 42 features may be getting more priority than they previously had. These finished core features of Star Citizen that are going to be in Squadron 42, if it just takes them a month or two to get them fully in the persistent universe, it's likely they'll do that. It's a core of the game and a core of the engine. So with that in mind, expect the Squadron 42 roadmap to be almost entirely absorbed into the persistent universe roadmap, typically with some of the features coming the same quarter as they sit in Squadron 42's roadmap, or the quarter afterwards if they need a bit more work, in most cases anyway. This obviously doesn't entirely preclude any other features coming to the persistent universe. I'm just saying that there is going to be a focus on the Squadron 42 ones, and some core gameplay features for Star Citizen are desperately needed to get into a place that is more stable. The new flight model needs not only to work, but work well. Combat has to be pretty damn close to its final state for Squadron 42's launch, and that's obviously going to be shared in Star Citizen. This touches pretty much everything in some way, that flight model, and you can't have a game about spaceships without a pretty damn good flight model, ESP and combat. The model is an entire overhaul to the previous one, so every ship will be affected. Weapons need rebalancing, shields, items, and it's going to take a while beyond 3.5 to get it appropriately ready for prime time. Yes, there are almost certainly going to be tweaks and balances after Squadron 42's launch as well when it comes to the persistent universe balance and all that sort of stuff with the flight model, because they'll be releasing more ships once they've released some new items and capital ships and weapons. They might have to tweak some of the hulls, they might have to tweak some of the thrusters, all that sort of stuff, but it's not going to majorly affect Squadron 42, at least it shouldn't. So yeah, consider that they will likely want to get all the features of Squadron 42 in a similar state. Why not get that into the PU as well around the same time? 3D maps, HUD improvements, scanning, radars, signatures, all to their final versions, or at least close to them. Beyond the flight model for ships, ship items, physicalization, sub-items, repair, the new physical damage system all need to be completed for Squadron 42. This would have all common elements across ships, pretty much completed. So you'd have the flight model, you'd have the physicalization of items. This would enable much better multi-crew, repair for the ships, lots of customization. Items can be shot, disabled, repaired, customized, and ships will look awesome when they take damage. But they're not going to have health pools. It's literally going to be ships more being disabled rather than exploding, because you'll be taking out the individual thrusters and components. You should see new shield tech with signed distance fields conforming much more accurately and closely to the hulls of ships as well. AI and NPCs need to be working for Squadron 42. They're also so important to Star Citizen in the persistent universe and getting them working. As they're so integral to Squadron 42 and they're releasing that new flight model, there's going to be a concerted effort on getting NPCs better for combat, the way they react, use cover, have their own lives, maybe they get the scheduling in properly, social NPCs, shopkeepers, NPCs moving around landing zones, more NPC sort of like DNA, because they're releasing that DNA customization system for the players. But that's also going to affect NPCs. Their NPCs are going to look a lot different, a lot more varied. They want to have NPC ships in trade lanes and in missions, moving around landing zones, but more challenging in combat across multiple skill areas. NPC crew, or at least wingmen, you can hire are much more of a possibility. Probably not this year, but we could certainly have NPCs join us on missions or be much more active in them. Squadron 42's got loads and loads of sort of like wingman and NPC friendly tech and stuff going on, where NPCs can follow you around and react to your orders, things like that. Procedural improvements. So there's lots of props and assets for creation of cities, biomes, planets, asteroid fields, outposts, rest stops, stations, and other points of interest, as well as gas cloud tech that's needed for the coil. That's all getting added to the game system, adding a load more variety for missions and general just the prettiness of space. FPS gameplay and animations are obviously going to be very important to them this year. Light survival mechanics with the player status system coming online, so food, drink, washing your character will all be at least semi-important. Swimming, close combat, usable mounted weapons, mag boots for EVA. Animations will be a focus, getting them looking great. Having players sliding, walking upstairs, climbing ledges, and making sure that players aren't jittery anymore. Obviously, that's a bit network code side, but they're getting all these systems in. They're making the game look as good as they can. The Vandal are going to be very fleshed out as well this year with their ships and troops on the ground, so maybe we'll see some more of that beyond Arena Commander and in the Persistent Universe in a couple of missions maybe. The Pillars, so they talked about the Pillars to completion at CitizenCon 2018. So this year we're likely to see expanded group features and full persistence, and them laying the foundations or some of the groundwork for server meshing. That should include a focus on group gameplay like sharing missions, rewards, a more robust service beacon system, as well as organization features being more fleshed out. Performance and polish. The engine and general polish of the game is going to be a lot better. Things like Vulkan support might come online. Performance and more is obviously going to be a big focus. VoIP and FOIP working properly and stably. Server-side object container streaming is needed for both the Persistent Universe and Squadron 42 and should give a load of benefits, especially with server efficiency. Probably allowing for more players on servers as well. And them getting some more players and getting the servers as tweaked as possible this year is very important. We don't want 50 players per server anymore. CIG clearly know that. We want a couple of hundred at least in a server. And then obviously when they have server meshing tech, they can really start to ramp those numbers up. But the more players in, the better. But at the same time, you don't want performance to tank. So they need to make all these optimizations. Gameplay area. So they obviously want to get Stanton as completed as possible this year. They're going to get Planet Arc Corp in there, Microtech, and at a push, Orzen, which is the cloud city above Crusader, also implying the cloud tech for Crusader will be completed too. It makes sense that they need to get that system finished off as soon as possible because they need to start working on jump points and getting other systems all done. Yes, there's going to be loads of ships coming in 2019. I'm also expecting to see the Carrack and Titan suits by the end of the year. Do and should gameplay loops suffer because of this? Well, in the long term, they probably don't. In the short term, yes. Obviously, Salvage has moved out again. But having the core mechanics in should make planning and implementing gameplay loops more easy and for them to be closer to what is intended for them straight away because they have a more stable base and they know what's going on with balancing a bit better. Repairing and refueling are already listed for 3.6. I'm also expecting higher times to kill because of disabling ships rather than them always blowing up. Hopefully this should also mean we can have boarding in a much more stable state. I expect we will still see salvage this year and mining to get a lot more love too. Medical gameplay is part of Squadron 42, so I'd expect them to work on that a bit more and get a more full medical experience in this year, medding other players with med pens, dragging them around, stunning them and knocking them down rather than killing them. Beyond that, I would expect them to try and get some of the features they wanted to get in last year and they've talked about before, so land claims, ship rentals, weapon inspection and interaction with general objects, lots more stealth type gameplay, persistent habs and hangars, maybe some of the data storage stuff as well. They've talked about ship to station docking, getting the parasite fighters working, which would be ship to ship docking as well, and the expanded cargo system so they can have lots of different cargo container sizes, obviously the larger ones being more appropriate for the game where possible, because that means less entities they need to deal with, and that's a lot more efficient. They don't want thousands of little boxes like we've got at the moment in each ship. They want to go, well, let's put these 24 small little boxes into one big box, and then that's one entity to deal with rather than 24. It makes sense to me that they'll try and get as many parts of the core game and feature set in as close to a finished state as possible, and all the gameplay in-game we can as full as possible. More missions and variants for them being a large factor of that. General subsumption with all the other elements coming together is probably going to be tested this year after they get full persistence out. This will have a more dynamic economy and the mission generation system tweaked a bit better based on what players are doing. But I'm expecting PU-wise, gameplay area, AI and NPCs, missions, the flight model, combat, ship components, customization, group features, multi-crew, and full persistence to take a huge chunk of the priority this year. Getting Star Citizen in a much less buggy state and more of a robust game. In my predicted scenario, there's a lot more content and gameplay area, but there's still a large amount for them to do. They'd then be able to attach new gameplay loops and ships like that to make the game less shallow, almost modularly, because they've got the base of the game there. They know how everything else balances together. Hopefully, that should allow them to do it a lot more easily. And it just sort of like makes sense. It makes the game more mainstream and much more playable. I do expect that Squadron 42 will need jump points as well. I doubt the whole game is just in the Odin system, and that's one of the sort of things I'm expecting to see at CitizenCon. Obviously, we want animals and loads of other stuff. There's so many gameplay loops that they need to start getting done, but I'm expecting the more common ones like repair, salvage, rearming, refueling, and fuel type stuff, all to be the ones they focus on this year. I also suspect that modularity will see some work, but I wouldn't expect modular room changes in ships, maybe more gameplay loops beyond what we've discussed, jump points, new systems, and capital ships, actually in-game until 2020 now, along with something pushing towards the first iteration of server meshing, or at least its foundation anyway. I'm interested to know your thoughts and predictions too. Please chuck them in the comments below. What do you think CIG are doing direction-wise? What do you think is going to appear on the roadmap? What do you think we'll see this year? Every month we have a giveaway for a Star Citizen ship. For January, we have a standalone Anvil Carrack, the mighty explorer vessel. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and then comment on any of my videos released during the month. You can find more details in the comments below. If you don't have a gaming PC yet, or you are upgrading, instead consider Shadow Cloud Gaming. They allow you to leverage the powers of the internet to stream a high-spec Windows 10 environment to any other PC, Mac, or device like a smartphone or tablet. It is working really well in Star Citizen's 3.4 branch, and be sure to use the code BoredGamer if you do decide to check it out to get a discount. Links below. For those of you wanting to support the channel further, there is Patreon, and I will be looking for an alternative platform as well for people that have requested that. But in addition, or as an alternative to that at the moment, there's the YouTube channel memberships, literally the join button below this video, or direct donations via the links below as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really does help me. Any feedback or opinions is greatly appreciated and helps guide the channel working out what content is a good idea to put out next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.